Hi, I'm Elisabeth with Wallace Yarn Creations. When I'm knitting, I like to have a good time and enjoy myself. So I'm looking for a pattern that is well written and easy to follow. I want to use yarn I like to work with in a pretty color. And I want whatever I'm knitting to be useful and wearable afterwards. The Vitamin D Cardigan is a project that checks all of those boxes. And today I like to show you how to knit one and why it is such a good fit. The pattern is written by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I don't know her and I'm not affiliated with her. Vitamin D is a top-down cardigan. It means you start at the neck and then you knit all the way down. It's knitted all in one piece, so there is no seaming necessary afterwards. The pattern is written for 7 different sizes, which is super convenient since we all come in different sizes. But it is pretty important that you knit the size that will fit you. Sounds totally obvious, but it is not a given. One time I knitted a vest. Nice pattern, enjoyable knitting, nice yarn, everything was good until it was finished, and it was exactly one size too small. And I couldn't do anything about it, couldn't add anything, couldn't add stitches, length. It just didn't work. The only option was to rip it out and start all over. Pretty frustrating. And one way to avoid that is by knitting a swatch. Yes, many of us don't really care for swatching, but there are times when it is a good idea to do so. And when you knit a garment, either a cardigan or a sweater that you want to fit afterwards, this is one of those times. When I knit a swatch, I cast on about 40-45 stitches and knit about 5 inches. So something like that. Small washcloth size is sufficient, just to be able to measure for your gauge. Gauge is an indication of how many stitches you need to knit either 1 inch or 4 inches, whatever the unit of measurement is. I wrote a blog post recently how to measure gauge. So if you're not familiar with that, you can find that blog on my website. While you're knitting a swatch, this is also a good time to try different needle sizes. If you're working with a yarn you have not worked with before, you want to look at the yarn recommendation. Each yarn usually has a needle size recommendation. For my yarn, I recommend needle size 2 to 6. Of course, that is a big range, but we all knit differently. If you're knitting very tight, you may want to go to the upper end, for example, start with a 5. If you're knitting very loosely, you can start with a 3. And knitting the swatch, which is, you just have a few stitches on the needle, very little time involvement, very little commitment. This is the time to play with different needle sizes to see which needle gives you the fabric you like. A little looser, a little tighter, whatever appeals to you. Once you have determined your gauge with your swatch, you can check it against the pattern. This is how the pattern looks, Vitamin D. And the designer lists her gauge, 24 stitches, 32 rows, gives you 4 inches. It doesn't need to be exact, but you want to be in the same ballpark. For example, she lists 24. If you have 23 or 25 stitches, that is okay. Be in the same ballpark is good enough. So this is how the pattern looks, and as you can see, I circled my sizes. I'm knitting the size M2, medium 2, and before I start casting on, I go through the whole pattern and circle the decreases, increases, stitch numbers, whatever information the designer gives me that pertain to my size. Here you can see this here. With 7 different sizes listed, there are often many numbers that can become confusing. So going through the pattern and circling my size allows me to just jump to the information I need, makes it easier. Also, I scribble on my pattern a lot. So I use my pattern to keep notes, to track my progress. Works for me. Not everybody likes to work with paper copies. Some people like to use an iPad. Whatever works for you. As I said, I always print mine, and as you can see, my patterns get a workout. So we have yarn, we have determined our needle size, we know the size we are looking for, we are ready to cast on. Follow the pattern, it's well written, and enjoy the ride. You increase, since at the beginning, the entire shoulder portion, the back, front, sleeves, all is in one piece, and everything is on the needle at once. At some point in time, you get to the point that you have increased enough that you're ready to separate the sleeve stitches from the main body stitches. This is a crucial point. The whole cardigan is knitted in one piece, so we need to make sure that it fits your body. And at the point where we need to separate those stitches, that is the point to test it. I recommend putting your stitches on a second needle, the same needle size you're using, so that you can spread the stitches out and measure them. You can put them on your shoulders to make sure you have knitted further down enough that it doesn't cut in like this. Or you can lay your knitted piece on another sweater, either store-bought or knitted, that fits you well and that's comfortable to you in comparison. That will show you how your knitted piece measures against something you are wearing. In the pattern, you also have a drawing here that gives you measurements. That is also a good reference to see that you're on the right track. But these are only guidelines. The main thing is to get the fit that you want. In 9 out of 10 cases, when I follow the pattern, I will find that when the designer tells me to separate sleeves and body stitches, I find it's too tight here. Maybe somebody has thinner arms than I do. Maybe, I don't know why. I just find that I like to knit a little bit longer to bring everything further down, that I have more room here. I wear a shirt under my cardigan. I want it to be nice and comfortable. So before separating the stitches, I add a few rows, and again, try it on, put it on a different sweater I have to make sure I have the comfortable fit I want. If you're adding just a few rows, you will not change your stitch count. You will just add a little extra length to bring the whole thing further down. Maybe you don't need that. As I said, I do it in 9 out of 10 times that I will add a few rows. Once you have determined it is comfortable and the right size for you, you will separate the body, the different portions of your cardigan. The designer recommends parking the body stitches, meaning the 2 front and the back stitches, and working the sleeves first. I do it the other way. I'm just used to working the main body first and the sleeves second. Either way works, doesn't make a difference. In my case, I use a piece of scrap yarn, or you can use a separate needle, and place the stitches for both sleeves on hold. So they are parked. I don't work with them anymore. I'm just working on the main body, so that the stitches for the 2 fronts and the back portion are on the needle and I'm continuing working the cardigan. Once you have done that, the designer will tell you to work short rows. And let me show you how that looks. You can see that in my case, since I used colored yarn. So you see this here and here, these are short rows, which adds a little shaping. In my case, it also looks nice because you can see the short row shaping, and it adds a little bit length in the back. Not very much, but it's a nice little shaping, and as I said, in my case you can see it because of the colors. After that, again following the pattern, you will increase down here, and that adds extra fabric to make it nice and flowy here, little drapey, which makes this cardigan so pretty to wear. Nice, loose fitting, very comfortable. Goes with jeans. You can wear it over a dress. You can dress it up, dress it down, depending on your color, what you wear with it. It's very versatile, and that's one reason why I love it so much and wear it so much. So the length of this one I'm wearing right now is pretty much this, exactly as the designer says. Let me show you a variation. Patterns are guidelines, so it is your knitting and your project, and you are free to make changes however you like. In this case, I did the short row shaping just as before, which you again can see well because of the different colors. You see that here and here. These are the short row shapings. Again, a little bit bigger, a little bit longer in the back, not much. And then I did not do the increases in the front. After the short rows, I knitted straight down. There are no more increases. It's still flowy and drapey, but not as much as in the other cardigan. Again, you are in charge of your knitting, however you see fit. In this case, I also made the sleeves a little bit longer. A lot of variation what you can do. Let me show you one more example. As I said, I like this pattern, and this is my third one. And this one is still on the needles, so it's a little tangly. And I'm tangled up here. Zip, there we go. Okay, bear with me while I get in this thing. Okay, here we go. This case, I again did the short rows. Highly visible because of the colors, which I think adds a really nice look. You can see them here. And then I did the increases as before to have it nice and drapey up front here. It still hangs a little weird right now because the needles are in there, but you get the idea. And this one, I want it to be a little longer. So after the increases, which you can see here, I just kept on going. I just added additional rows to make it longer. Again, a little bit longer in the back, but overall the cardigan is longer than the other two. Lot of room to play with. You can shape your knitting as you like. This also shows you how I pack the sleeve stitches. There's scrap yarn in there. So as soon as I bind off the bottom, I will pick up the sleeve stitches and then continue finishing the sleeves. I like to knit the sleeves parallel So I put a needle in each sleeve, and then I go back and forth between the two for several reasons. First reason is I'm avoiding second sleeve syndrome. I'm going back and forth, so they will be both done at the same time. The cardigan is ready and I can wear it. Secondly, it's easier to keep track of the decreases when I'm working them side by side. I still take notes, but it's just fresher in my memory when and how much I'm decreasing, and that ensures that one sleeve is not significantly smaller than the other. Thirdly, and important in my case, is my color work. I'm working with gradient yarn, so the colors change, and I want the sleeves to look similar or the same, more or less. So if you look at the skein, you see the blue in the middle, and then it goes to gray. What I'm doing, I knit the blue an inch, however many rows, and I eyeball how much I have left before the color changes. And I cut the yarn and go to the other side, finish the blue, and continue the same process with the next color change. Doesn't need to be exact. You don't need to cut it and weigh it. You can just literally eyeball it and see how much do I have left, knit this much, go to the other side and knit that much on the other side. Nobody will be able to tell if there is a row or 2 rows difference, but overall the look will be the same. You have similar looking sleeves, and the sleeves will also mirror the body knitting. So it gives a very nice look, overall pretty garment in beautiful colors. One of my favorite patterns, as I said, this is my third one. I'm wearing mine a lot, and I hope you will give it a try. You like it. Happy knitting.